Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to the State of the Channel for April 2nd. So I guess the main thing I want to talk about is I have PTO. I'm actually on PTO right now, and Good Friday was a holiday I had off. So I've been going through a bunch of things with that extra time. One is I finished up all of Silent Hill. I kind of want to get to the point where I can finish it faster. I'm not quite there yet, but I did get everything done so that I can keep having something come out each day. That is something where I think I still need to improve on it because I still feel like that takes up more time than I would like. Like, I like the idea of having stuff come out every day. Like, there's always something out, like churning, particularly because I don't put a lot of effort into those like Let's Play stuff because that's not the point of this channel. I do that more for myself because there's games that I want to play, and then I think of it like kind of like a coding kata except for editing, where I can just keep working on just different editing skills to improve it, get it going faster, just learn more, because a lot of times I would say I learn through problem solving. So stuff like trying to eliminate the audio glitch on the podcast and the Let's Play stuff, that's something I've learned a lot about, just the workflows, trying to figure out. Haven't solved it, that's still eluding me, but I think that lets me work through a lot of things. So I want to stay committed to it. I'm afraid that I'll get stuck in this loop where it takes me an entire week to make a week's worth of stuff for that commitment, and then I won't get anywhere on any of my other projects. Like, it needs to be something that ideally takes, let's say, 2 days a week is something I think I commit to. And these are like days where I assume I have work, so like a weekend would count even more. But enough where I could sit down, say after work, and just from like 5 until 10, like that never happens, I just film. And then the next day I just edit, and then hey, here's a week. That would be the ideal case. So that it's not that big of a deal. I always have something I can edit if I have an activity that goes well with that. And it would just let me keep producing content. Because one of the things that I am kind of afraid of just looking at the math is, I think a big deal when it comes to like any channel that does Let's Plays is your backlog. Not backlog, just things you've done in the past, like games like that. Like right now, I'd say if I had to rate it, it's like I only have basically a Dead Rising 1 and 2 playthrough, Dead Rising Chop to You Drop, and now Silent Hill. And if those are very specific types of games, and that doesn't really show a lot, so I want to get a big backlog out there and available. But looking at the time, you're looking at basically one game a month, which when I'm making it, feels like I'm doing a lot of work to cram that in. But it does seem weird to me then that if like a year from now today, if I keep the schedule, I'll only add 12 games. That doesn't feel like a really good backlog to that. So I just really need to keep shrinking down the time and just like see if I can't schedule myself better to fit more stuff in, because I feel like if I'm going to do this more seriously as a thing, not just the one-off stuff like Dead Rising Chop to You Drop, it needs to be like I need to have a plan. I need to be able to get that whole backlog going. I don't really know what the answer to that is. I just think that's something I would like to do. And because anytime I can speed up how long it takes me to edit a video without losing the quality, that's a very nice thing. So those are some thoughts I've had. Otherwise, the main thing I'm working on right now is I have this massive book for Ruby on Rails I'm trying to work through and teach myself, with the eventual goal being to write my own site. And then that's going to be what I see as like this kind of like 5-year plan, let's say. It is for this whole initiative I'm doing with the YouTube channel and everything else. And one of the things I wanted to do was start this channel, and that lets me work through and get skills with like Photoshop, or I don't use Photoshop, I use GIMP, but photo editing, video editing, just presentation, being able to be out in front on a camera and speak, I think is a very important skill. And then the next thing I wanted to do was this site. And it's not particularly anything crazy, because really ultimately I don't need a site. I basically just have the YouTube channel page, and for the stuff I produce, that's pretty much everything. Otherwise, all the website would kind of do, I could see, is it would pull in my Twitter, my Twitch, it would let me host some things, but it's not like I'm going to be turning on some amazing functionality. It's more of to teach myself those skills and then to set up for later projects I'd like to do. So I'm doing another tool for my own personal use that I'd love to see if I can interact with a API on my own site. and use that to kind of automate certain things. Or I want to be able to code one-off projects. Like my podcast vaguely has like a question section we'll sometimes do if we're like, don't have a lot of topics. Like say we had to film 2 podcasts like back to back for some reason. By the second one, nothing has happened in the last 30 minutes since we just filmed the last one. So that's a good way to get stuff started. But I would love to turn that, instead of being just a form where you just drop in questions, it's something a little more interactive. Like you can vote stuff up or down, almost like with a Reddit style. So like this, like custom one-off stuff, but then I can point to like, I coded this, I learned this. So I could put that on a resume, I could show it off. So I want to keep doing stuff like that. So I don't necessarily know the time frames. I'm thinking, based off the pace, I'm going with that book. I would like to, by summer, have something workable, like have the knowledge, and then swap over from my current site to this new one, which I think the current site is down for some reason and I can't figure out why. I don't possess the skill and I'm not gonna put in the time to fix it, knowing I'm just going to tear it down. And personally, I like the idea of it not working because then I don't have to worry about the security as much. So I was considering just going in there myself and just blasting it. That way I can't like lose lose control of my server and database to some botnet if it doesn't exist. So that I think would be good. Plus, I might ultimately do some stuff where if I need different capabilities, I might switch providers to a different host, in which case I'm not gonna bother migrating that stuff. So that's my plan. I don't know the actual time frame, but it's something I would like to hit. I'm going to be starting up, since I finished Silent Hill, the next game I want to do is Legacy of Kain. It's something I've done before, but I have an idea for a potentially newish show that's just a one-person thing that I'd like to try out. And for that, I know I want to talk about it a little bit. And I figured, hey, 2 birds, 1 stone, go do a let's play of this, and I'll get footage for that, but then I can also throw it up on the channel. And it's a little bit different than all these other ones. Plus, I want the channel to be like, here's some interesting games and things I would want to talk about. It's not meant to be just, here's me playing the biggest games. So here's something with Legacy of Kain where it's not an amazing game, particularly the Soul Reaver, the one I'll probably be playing. Gameplay is not that good, but the world's pretty cool, and that would be something I'd like to have on the channel because then I can talk about it more. Or I can point to like, oh hey, I did a playthrough over here if you want to see me go in depth what I like and dislike about the game. So that's all what is up. Did not stream D&D this Sunday just because we had canceled plans for players, but I'm hoping the D&D stream to eventually be its own thing. It's gonna always be super variable because again, like the podcast is not on my schedule, and because it's live, I can't just say do it earlier. But in the past, our D&D group has had a extremely custom campaign, and I want to start moving back towards that. So I don't quite know what our plan is. I say this, there's multiple things I kind of want, like, oh, I want to be able to do our own world and setup and stuff, but then also I know I'm going to be taking them into a different module that's still Wizards of the Coast, so I don't really know what there, but I eventually want to really turn that into something more. I don't know what, but I would love in 5 years to have somehow developed that into maybe its own little podcast thing, where maybe we only meet once a month, but all it's meant to be is a 12-part series that ends on that 12th episode, and it's just a complete custom story. Like, you would not see this anywhere else. Whereas you can go find other groups that have played through that module, the Lost Mines of Phandelver. But I just hate that there was no way to record some of the stuff we did earlier on. Not because it's particularly amazing, but it's just like it's unique. It's one-off thing. And I think having a custom world really works more for us. Because even with Lost Mines of Phandelver, I really change a lot, I think. And the world just really grows because I think we have a really good group. And I would like to have that D&D stream be something because, 1, it's fun, I enjoy doing it. 2, it lets me invest more time into actually making this D&D world. Normally, it's like, oh, I would like to do more, but I can't justify spending, I don't know, 10 to 20 hours a week in preparation for a D&D session. Like, there's times where it didn't usually get that bad, but I know when we're doing weekly ones back before we recorded anything, or back when we did record, this never came out, I would just do tons of prep, and we played every week, so I would just churn through the stuff I prepped, and it became just this monster. And the big thing I liked with Roll20 is I can automate all that, And then I would actually try to limit myself to how much time I could do. So it's like, okay, we're gonna play in 2 hours. I have 2 hours to prepare as much as I can, as effectively as I can. That way I'm not going down rabbit holes of like, oh, what's this NPC's whole backstory? It's like, we don't need it because they probably won't go there. Like, focus on what's the biggest bang for your buck. And honestly, it's just fun. I like doing it for myself. I like having the ability to go back and watch that stuff. So like, I know for my own personal stuff and my players, back when we did that first test recording that developed the technology for the podcast, I still have that footage. And I would love to just go through and make an edit of it that's super rough. Just so, you know, sometime in like 10 years, it'd be kind of cool to be able to load this up and just listen to us play D&D. And we could talk about like all these different highlights. So I just imagine like there's so many great moments that I wish I had recorded that instead of us talking about and not really remembering, I could pull it up and be like, this is that moment. Like, oh yeah, God, it's so perfect. And we can see like stuff happening as we go. It'd be really cool, I think. So that's my plans for the future. Basically, whenever I end quote unquote series, I always think about like, okay, what's the next big kind of initiative? And I feel like right now I'm in between a lot of stuff because I just finished Silent Hill. I'm definitely wanting that Let's Play stuff to be more. I am liking the daily stuff, even if it is a big step up for workload for me. That is a thing. But with that and then the website, I feel like these big things are what I would like to eventually get done by the end of the year. Like, that's the big thing I want to kind of commit to, is by the end of this year having something greater and more comprehensive. Because when I talk about this stuff, it's not just the channel. There's a bunch of other stuff I'm kind of doing all as one initiative, and I would like to kind of pull that together. So like right now, when I stream, that was only loosely associated with this other channel thing. Like those are kind of similar. Oh, and then you could like pull in like a Twitter or something. But if I ever wanted to do like a blog, like I don't know on what, on like coding or something, or on just doing this thing, then that would just be floating out here on some other website, unrelated to this really developed channel then over here, and unrelated to this piece of software I made for someone or something. So I would like to basically build that platform that I can grow, like one central point that I can turn into something. And this is gonna sound like I have this all planned out, but I don't. I just have this vague idea of developing these things, and I kind of will find my way as I gain those skills. I think that's just been how I would describe all of this. I think about how I have a podcast now and how 2 years ago I had no desire to make that. But when I realized I had the skills and I had a need for something like that, it just kind of happened and I enjoy it. I didn't set out to do that. And I imagine there's some stuff, like if I'm still following my plan, there's some stuff I have not conceived yet that are probably going to be very defining for this little project I'm doing, this whole thing. So like, I still think I have yet to do anything that is like the defining series for the channel. I still think the channel needs some main series, and that way I can be like, this is what I do on the YouTube channel. I don't want it to be the Let's Plays. Those are always going to be on the side thing. I would never describe myself as like a YouTube Let's Player, but I'm still not sure what exactly that show is. But just as I've worked on different things, I feel like vague ideas have kind of formed about what it would need to be. I just don't know what it would be about. So those are all just ramblings. I got to figure it out and I got to get back to work. So it will be an interesting year. Making New Year's resolutions in April 1st. I recorded this on Sunday, so it's April 1st. I feel like now me saying all those things makes it sound like I'm not going to do it, but at least this comes out on April 2nd, so I'm not lying. But as always, you can contact me over on my Twitter. It's at taking4grantd. And even if I nuke my site, the email should still work because that's a separate thing. So you can contact me through email at grant@taking4grantd.com. And I'll see you again next week.